Hello and welcome to Tucson, Edizonia. I'm Randy.
I'm Nick.
All right, buddy. So, we both got kids.
Prove it.
We both have two sons. Mine are old. So my youngest just turned 17, and so on his 17th birthday last weekend, you were here.
Yes.
So later that night, he asked me a question, and it made me laugh because now he's getting older. He's starting to ask me about like my life.
Mm-hmm.
And he's taking like an interest in like things, right? Yeah, it was just
Bad to get into.
double-edged sword, dude. So, he still talks to Nancy. Nancy's my birth mother, who I don't have a relationship with. And he asked me why I don't talk to her,
Okay.
which is kind of a very long, involved story. And I gave him the condensed version. She bailed when I was 5.
She was naughty.
She cheated on my dad all the time. My dad had to raise 3 kids on his own. She got pregnant with another stranger. And then my aunt adopted that daughter, so my little sister.
She never told him that until
Yeah,
later on.
yeah, I didn't know until much later. I knew before my sister did.
I was there for the conversation.
Yeah. So, and then she met my stepdad, who was an awesome dude until she kind of ruined him and cheats on him all the time. Why he stays, I will never understand. They had a daughter together, and then that daughter was raised by her grandparents until her grandfather passed away, and then Nancy and Nick fucking raised her from there. She was a cop for 9 years, couldn't stay away from married cops that she worked with and cocaine. So she lost her career and has been kind of worthless ever since. So I've got nothing to do with her. Like, I haven't talked to her in a long time. Don't have anything to do with her. So my son asked me about all this. So I gave him that condensed version. There's a lot more to it than that. I just gave him that information. So he's like, okay, Dad, well, thank you for trusting me with that information. Like, I really appreciate it. Thank you for telling me. I was like, yeah, dude, you're welcome. And then, so apparently he knows why I'm divorced because my ex-wife told him, I guess, like a year ago. So we're talking about this stuff. And like the next day, all right, so it's a pretty like heavy conversation to have. And both of my kids are in there. Like both of my boys are in there when he asked this.
Yeah.
So they both heard it. They both kind of go, oh, okay. I'm like, yeah, she can't be counted on. She can't be trusted. And she's always drama. Like, she's never been there for me. I've got like deep emotional scars because of her. And I've got like mental scarring from things that I've seen and been around because of her. So made me a very angry person. So, which kind of led to life choices I made later on down the road. So the next night I'm hanging out and it's kind of late, and Daniel, I'm saying goodnight to everybody. I'm like locking doors, turn off lights. And I make sure Daniel's up for work because my oldest works nights. So he goes, hey, Dad, I got a question. I said, sure, dude, what's up? And it's 11.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, I'm already half asleep. Like, I don't want to have a conversation right now. Like, I love you, kid. But I was just like, yeah, what's up? And he goes, if you died, what's one thing you would want me to know? That question has plagued me for a week because I'm pretty open with my kids and always have been. Like, my dad was pretty open with us. Like, there were certain things he didn't talk about, and there's certain things he still doesn't talk about. Like, I'm a grown man and we work together. So over the course of the last couple of years, I've been getting him to tell me stories very openly. Like, he's not worried. His big thing when he was married to his second wife, she was a hardcore alcoholic. We've talked about her on here once or twice. Very abusive woman. She'd get hammered drunk and then like make jokes and comments about something in my dad's past. And then he'd look at her and be like, stop talking about that. And she'd be like, what, man, they should know. And he was like, no, I don't want my kids knowing about the decisions I made because I don't want them thinking they're okay.
Yeah.
So like, it was very like, so generally there was a lot of stuff he would keep quiet about, like wouldn't tell me about.
I remember asking him certain things and my parents would give me a short rundown. I remember your dad, like, this is a very bad example, but like I remember asking my dad about what was 69, and all he said to me was "toucan chew."
I forgot. Yeah, you told me about that.
That was it. He wouldn't tell me anything else, and so I had to like still figure it out myself, which was weird. But your dad would just be like nothing. Nothing. So I remember that.
And that's like, but that was for like people who weren't me, because I don't think he felt like it was his place. Like he'd try to give advice or whatever in
Yeah.
certain circumstances, but like growing up, like I'd ask like we'd watch a movie, and I'm a little kid, and some people are like, "Oh, it's not appropriate." I'm like, "Dude, look at today's day and age. Like kids know what everything is way too soon."
Yeah.
But like we'd watch a movie, and something would say, like a BJ would be mentioned, and then I'm like, "What's that?" And he'd be like, "I'll tell you after the movie." And then after the movie, like just he and I would like go outside and talk, and he'd be like, "Okay, kid, like this is what that means." Like he was, like he would answer my questions in a, like almost in like a physician's way,
Mhm.
like very matter of fact, but also like he'd kind of walk it at your pace, and like, but he'd answer my questions. So I knew about things I'd ask, and he'd be like, "Okay, like don't tell anyone, like don't run around joking about this. It's not
Yeah.
a joke, but here you asked." So like he would give me information, um, but only if I asked.
Yeah.
And my dad's not a crude person and never has been. So like he doesn't, like he'd make jokes, like growing up in the drop zone, like I'd hear him and his buddies joking about stuff with no context. Like I wouldn't understand what they're talking about. But I started thinking about this, dude. Like that question's been with me all week. And like I talk to my kids about whatever.
Mhm.
Like there are certain things that you wait, and I do kind of like my dad's method. Like there's a lot of things about my past my kids know nothing about. And then there's things that they know in vague, like vagueness, like when they screw up, and I'm like, dude, trust me. Like when I try to give my kids life advice, like when they're getting grilled, and I grill my kids when they screw up, um, like I try to impart life advice in that ass chewing.
Mhm.
Like, dude, don't do this. Trust me, I know. Like these are the type of people you can wind up with. This is the scenario you can land in. Like I try to. My number one goal is to keep my kids alive and out of prison. Like, and then after that, third is to make sure that they're like successful people. But like, okay, I've done the part. They're alive.
Mhm.
That's kind of out of my hands now. So
Yeah.
success.
Hopefully.
Keep them out of prison. So far that works, and that's going to be a lifelong goal. But then the next important one, and these are all equally important. It just kind of how I run them down. I got to keep you alive, keep you fed, keep the heat on, whatever. And then secondly, all right, hurry up, dude, because that light washes this out. Ah, and here's kids now.
Ice cube.
Come here. You want some?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. And I'm not going to edit this out
Sorry.
because I don't care enough.
No.
But these are some of the people we're talking about.
Yeah,
Here.
I don't care.
Candy.
If they have candy.
You want candy? Here. Candy.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
No more.
Yep, this can stay with me now.
Buy yourself something nice.
Ooh, thank you.
Nice.
I am pretty.
Well, there's one kid of mine and two of his. So
Yes.
proof.
Yes.
So he's very employed. He's currently replacing the clutch in his car. And halfway watching your kids.
Yes.
So like, but this is the kid, the one with the long ass hair, is the one who asked me that question. And I think about it, I'm like, dude, like at this point, like anytime he has a question, like I answer it.
Mhm.
So he'd be like, hey dad, what's this, or why this, or when did you do this, or whatever. And I just tell him, because I'm not worried about him following like
Yeah.
a blueprint.
Yeah, you kind of want him to guide himself, but you want to make sure that it's that direction. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got a really good head on his shoulders. He doesn't surround himself with idiots like I did. Like he doesn't have dumbass aspirations like I did. Like he's not trying to be cool. He doesn't care what people think about him. He doesn't care. So like that question, dude, I've been thinking about it, and I can't think of anything. I mean, that's part of why I'm doing this. Is so that, I mean, dude, I've been in so many car accidents and motorcycle accidents. Like I could be gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
So doing this is recorded history.
Mhm.
And that's one of many reasons I started doing this. Like
Yeah.
fame and fortune, if it happens, it happens, but it's not my driving factor. I don't know much. Like I knew one of my grandfathers, like, okay.
Yeah.
Like I've got history with him, but there's a lot about him I didn't know until after he passed away. And then my dad's dad, like, I mean, I met him a bunch of times. I love the guy, like, and I was there right before he passed, but there's so much less about him I know.
Mhm.
and no one knows. So I was like, you know what? Like, if I can leave stories about me through history that my family members in the future can go back and see, and they're like, oh yeah, this was your grandfather.
Yeah.
It's like if I pass and my kids have kids, they're like, what was your grandfather like? They're like, here's his YouTube channel. Check it out. This is a little bit of him. You know what I mean?
You have to get a converter so that it'll go to this,
Yeah,
this
right.
screen, and then you have to download it on this JPEG. What's a JPEG? I have no idea. But yeah, they'll be able to watch it.
Yeah. So like it's recorded history.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of why I'm doing this. And that's why I'm like so open about talking about stories about like my youth when I was in trouble, stuff like that. Mostly I think they're funny and entertaining, but they're also
Living them was way more funny.
yeah, dude, living them was awesome. But like in surviving and getting on the other side of all that. But like, dude, that question is stuck with me. So your kids are much younger, as the world just saw. What is something
Another
like
Benjamin Button.
same question, bro? Yeah, they're 97. So same question, dude. Like, is there something? Because I know you and I talk like outside of this. You and I talk about being dads and like comparing ourselves to our dads, you know, and running down the pros and cons of how to move forward and how to tiptoe through the life that is being a parent. You know, because contrary to popular belief, there is no freaking book. And
There is, but they're all wrong.
yeah, dude, they're so wrong. So it's one of those things like, crap, like I wish I had like this big, deep philosophical answer for that question, but I'm trying to tell him everything now. So I keep thinking about it, I'm like, dude, like everything I can think of, like I tell you in the moment. If I think of some other life advice, I tell you now. So I understand why he was asking, but I haven't been able to give him an answer. So if I were to pose that question to you, one thing that you would want your kids to know after you're gone.
In this moment, this is something I'd want to think about.
Absolutely,
But
dude. It's
since
been a week and I don't have an answer.
Since you've said it, this is what I've pondered because we've talked about it a lot, and I watch a lot of videos on parenting because I know only what I was shown.
Exactly.
Which
And that's the position we're all in.
Yeah, I've got good examples through your dad. I've got good examples through Matt's dad. Like my dad he was a good dad. Like I said, I don't have anything against my dad raising me.
As a
raising
father.
me.
As a father.
But I watch a lot of videos on that because that's all you know. You don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
So the thing that popped into my head first, which this may not be my solid answer,
Fair enough, dude.
but is, and I've seen it in the videos, and this is my context from the videos, and some of them outright say it, some of them just talk about it, but would be, don't be afraid to fail often, try to fail,
Jordan
and learn
Peterson.
from it. Yep. I haven't started Whatnot because I want to make sure I'm doing it correctly, and I do a lot of research, and I do way more than I need to, and I know that.
It's not always a bad thing though.
No, it's not.
It
But-
can be a stymie.
There's a point where sometimes it's got to be trial by fire. Like light bulbs, WD-40. I know that's not even what it was made for, but it was the 40th one. It took him 40 tries, and when he first started, he thought he had the formula correct. Like that's you have to do some of this, and I am afraid to fail. That's why I try to over prepare, and then I still fail the first time, and you know what I mean. And maybe I don't fail as bad, but if I would have started 2 months earlier and just started one in November, then I might have already been past where I'm at now. And so I something along those lines of it's okay to fail as long as you're learning from it. Like
Absolutely.
don't take that as a bad thing, because Trevin hates to lose. Hates the oldest one, the taller of my two. He absolutely hates to lose. And I finally got it to click in his brain that, hey, dude, like you losing every time we've played Mario Party, we do one that you have to just tap A. That's all you do. That's how you win the game. I get 100, 102, whatever. He was getting like 30, and he was losing to the computer who was getting 40. Now he gets like 50. And so I was finally like, dude, where'd you get? 50. Okay, cool. So it took you 20 times to get to 50. Imagine where you'll be in 20 times. You've got to fail to try to keep going. And so now he goes in and he'll play the mini games, and he'll just seriously do them like 20 times. He can get to like 60 now. And I'm like, dude, you just keep going. Like it's okay to not be successful the first time. And it's hard to drill that into people's minds because I even
so
have a
hard.
hard time with it. Like
Same, dude.
doing interviews for jobs. There's times in your life when you're super confident. Like you feel like you're on top of the world. I think we've all been there. Like everything just goes your way. You get a raise, you like whatever, and you're just like, I'm untouchable. And so when you talk to people, you're way more confident. And I think if you could do that all the time, even when things are going bad, your life would be better. And so I want to instill that in him, that when shit's not going your way, it's still okay. You can still be that happy-go-lucky person. And so something in that.
Absolutely. I used to, I don't think I have it as bad anymore, but I certainly had that.
I still
Like,
got
dude,
it.
I had it for years. Ego was my driving force.
Mhm.
So like, even when I was a little dude, like 160 pounds soaking wet, like, I mean, I could box, but when you're boxing big dudes, like it gets difficult. And then street fighting gets even more insane. So like I had ego for days, and that started from, I mean, it's going to sound, I know this is probably sound like a therapist episode, but like this is stuff that's been on my mind lately. So like with Nancy leaving, which is why I brought it up at like the preamble, with her leaving, dude, that left me like
I
cut
saw
in
it.
half. Like I was listless, dude. Like I didn't know, and I had zero confidence.
So-
Like I wore that like it was my fault.
I know. When she came down, we stayed in the hotel, and she
Yeah.
told you about your sister when all that happened.
Yeah.
The first day, I think you were like shock almost because we were still kids.
They were like,
But the
15
second
or
day,
something.
you were, because that's when she left. She was there the next day, and then she left the following
Yep.
day. And the moment she left, I could see a change in you, almost like your mom died. Like I don't know how else to explain it. She didn't die, but like almost like she was dead to you. Like all of those things, all those times you got mad at your dad because you thought it was his fault, or like I could see all of that coming back to you because it was me too. Like I
Yeah.
was experiencing
you were
the
there.
similar thing.
Like you were there. You're the one friend I have that was there when Nancy was kind of there, because she came back. So she left when I was 5. She came back a while later and tried to make things work with my dad for a couple of months, and then just boogied again. So
Yeah, literally just gone.
yeah, just
One
like
day.
I came home from school and she didn't live with us no more. And then there was another time she came down for like Christmas and tried to like fix things with my dad. And my dad was all for it because I mean, it was his high school sweetheart. Like they'd been ride or die on his side anyway, like
Yeah.
the most devoted dude on the planet. But then found out that she was pregnant with another dude's kid. And that was just like that's what broke the illusion of fixing their marriage.
Yep.
Up until that point, for years, my dad was doing everything he could to get her back,
Oh no.
knowing that she was out whoring around. And like in that moment, and I didn't know this till years later, but in that moment, he was like, I can't do this. Like, I cannot raise some dude you met at a bar at night and screwed him and then had his kid. Like, I can't raise that kid. Like it's gonna rip my heart out every time.
Yep.
And he loves Susie, because I'm talking about my little sister Susie. He loves her to death, but he couldn't do that, and I respect that. I couldn't do it. Like that's an internal strength that most would see as a weakness. That I don't like. I couldn't, like, in that position. I'd be like, no, I couldn't either. So we took her to the airport. She flew back to Texas, and she's been there ever since.
If circumstances had been different, though, it might have been different. It's
If
the
it was
fact-
his kid,
Well,
absolutely.
even that, like, if they had mutually broken up and then she got pregnant with somebody else's kid and then came back,
Yeah.
like there's a lot more to it too. So there's a lot of different crap that goes behind all of that. That isn't just, it wasn't just one veil of, oh wow, this sucks, because that's what my brother Mike did. When him and Ivy, they weren't working. She went back to Utah. She came back magically pregnant with somebody else's kid, but they had been semi trying to work it out the whole time, but they weren't together. And so he was okay with that situation.
Yeah, he knew. I mean,
In that moment.
yeah.
He wasn't later, but but
But yeah, like so, and then, but part of that same conversation, that when she told me about all that, she tried saying that, like, all this crazy stuff about my dad cheating on her and all this other stuff, and that she fought so hard for us, and blah blah blah. So then, like, I felt exactly how you're describing, and then I confronted my dad, like I was hot shit.
I remember I asked you if you told me you were going to, and I asked if you wanted me to be there, and you said no. So
Yeah.
I went home.
Yeah. So I confronted him, and then he let me, like, as the first time I'd ever just gone off on him. And because I mean, like, I feared and respected my father, and I don't fear him anymore, but I still respect him. I work with him. He's old, but, like, and I'm a lot bigger. I outweigh him by a lot. So, like, I confronted him and I just blew off. Like, I just blew my stack, yelling at him, saying everything that Nancy had just said. And to his credit, like, I will give him credit to this day, he listened.
Mhm.
He just stood there and he took all of it. And I was cussing him out. I was like 15 and I'm just cussing him out. And, like, and I was fearless in the moment because I don't know, I had the
Adrenaline,
moral high ground or whatever, but I was just fearless and I just went for it. And he just stood there and he let me go off. And then he was like, yeah, okay, you done? And I was like, and I just kind of just all bundled up. And he's like, I want to show you something. And I was like I thought for sure he's gonna be like, okay, bop. But he was like, I want to show you something. And I was like, I don't want to see nothing from you. And he was like, no, this is important. I want you to see this. And then he took me to his room and, like, he had this shelf. He pulled this stuff out of the shelf and he set it on his bed. And he goes, read that. I was like, what is it? He goes, just read it. And it was all his divorce paperwork from Nancy. And she wanted $500 and a car.
Yep.
That's all she wanted in the divorce, signed over full rights. And at that point, like, I'm done.
She was a terrible liar.
Yeah, dude.
She really
So,
was.
and then from that moment on, like, I mean, there were still years of, like, me being exactly like my dad and a teenager. So we just
Butted
bashed
heads.
heads all the time. But, like I've never forgotten the loyalty
Yeah.
of him raising three of us by himself and putting up with all that shit.
Yep.
Because Nancy was constantly, dude, from 2 states away, calling CPS and, like, trying to convince us to go somewhere. So, like, overall overarching storyline is parenting's a mother, and there's no, like, roadmap. And if you've only been given one set of tools, you're, like Nick was saying, you're not going to know how to do any differently. And, like, I've tried everything, you know, and I was a single parent for a while. So I was like, so here we go. Like, we're trying this one on.
So I want to make one comment and then ask you a question.
Okay.
Your comment is, one, I love your dad. He has his faults. Don't get me
Everyone-
wrong,
everyone
everybody
does.
does. But one thing I will credit your dad is I never heard until after you were 18 him say anything bad about Nancy.
Never did.
He never did. And even when he did talk bad, it was like, it wasn't me, it was her. Like, he never pointed fingers at her. He wasn't like,
He didn't
hey,
call her names.
yeah,
He didn't run her
nothing.
to the ground.
And
Nothing.
he still hasn't, but I've heard him make comments like, well, that was your mom, not me. Like, little stuff.
Yeah, your egg donor. He calls her the egg donor.
Egg donor now, yeah. But stuff like that. And I got to give him credit because that would have been rough.
Oh, dude.
So-
Yeah, it's hard. As someone who's been, and this is sad, like, because my ex-wife cheated on me like crazy. She's now married to the dude she cheated on me with. But
I sold him a car.
yeah, I left a truck when I left her. But, like, when I was going through that, like, I called my dad. Hey, this is what she's doing. Like, and I knew she was. I just didn't have proof. So the moment I had proof, I was like, cool, I'm out. So I called Dad. And he was like, don't do anything crazy. I was like, she's not worth going to prison for, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm good. Like, I'm pissed. And, like, I'm hurt in a weird way.
Yeah.
But this is what I wanted. So, like, I'm gone. And he's like, all right, just get the boys, get here. So moved back in with Dad for like 6 or 7 months until I can get back on my feet. But when I showed up, I'm like, it's rough. Like, you know, it's a big change, even though I wasn't in love with her anymore. Like, our marriage sucked, but, like, it's still emotion, you know? So and I'd be going through it and my dad would be like, you know, kid, he was like, it sucks so bad that you had to follow in my footsteps.
Mhm.
He's like, I didn't want this for you. So, like, there was a new understanding about him, like, that I had previously not been able to see.
Mhm.
Like, there's just a veil there. It's without walking the walk, you can't understand.
Yep.
So now I've walked that walk and I'm like, damn, dude, I get it. Like, holy shit, you're a hero. Like, I'm doing it with 2 kids. You did it with 3. My kids are about the same age. Like, Richter wasn't even 2 yet. So he turned 2 right after.
Mhm.
So I'm like, dude, like, I don't know how you had this strength, like,
Mhm.
to just like continue on. And then the one difference is, though, is he was still trying to get his lady back.
Mhm.
I was just like, no, hell no. I'm trying to figure out how to never talk to her again.
Well, you guys
But-
had kind of gone through, like, not a divorce, but you guys had gone through a rough time for a while.
Yeah.
And I don't know how early that was sprung on Dad. You know what I mean? Like,
His as soon as Talia was born, she had postpartum with Talia.
oh, okay.
And so I was, I'm 4 years older than her. So I was 4.
Gotcha.
And then
That's when they had started
things
having a
just
problem?
like, yeah.
Okay. I didn't
Because
know,
Talia
so-
wasn't even 2. Sad, but like her and Richter were like the same age,
Mhm.
like in this weird parallel. I was younger than Dad was, but like, so I managed to do the same thing
Mhm.
and never say anything bad about my ex around my kids. And like going through it, you're like, oh wow, this can be difficult, especially when you're on the phone with that person arguing.
Yeah.
And your kids are right here. Like you gotta like, hey guys, I'm gonna be in my room. Just keep eating, you know, and then try to keep everything down. So it gets really difficult. But he also had the nice situation where she lived 2 states away and
Yeah.
hardly had anything to do with us.
Yeah.
So, but when people would ask or whatever, like he'd have to kind of, hey guys, go play over there, and then
Yeah.
be like, this.
Well, that's rough too, because it's like success. You never see what's behind the veil. We were
Yeah.
talking about this with your son, talking about selling.
Yeah.
Like, cool, you buy something, you sell it, you make money, but there's
so much
so
more.
much more to it. There's, I mean, taxes and shipping and all, however your delivery system is. Like, there's hundreds of other things where you keep getting your product, stock, making sure you have stock. You're not selling the wrong items, the wrong person. Like, it's insane. So there's a huge veil that you don't see. You only see the outcome, and it's the same way with parenting, because you only see what your dad did to you, not what made him do that. So when it now you've seen what made him do that because you went through the same steps, but you can't explain that to somebody.
Yeah, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
Like I was telling, so I was recounting that conversation to my wife like the next day because she heard part of it, and then the next day she's like, "Hey, so what was all that?" I was like, "Oh, he wanted to know why I don't talk to her." And my kids are allowed to have a relationship with their grandmother. Like I told her that a long time ago. I was like,
Mhm.
"I'm never going to prevent you from having a relationship with my kids. Just don't expect me to be involved."
Mhm.
And that's how this has gone now. So for 10 years, my kids have had a relationship with their grandma. And then he was just like, "Hey, so why don't you talk to her?" So I don't know where it came from. I don't know if he heard me talking to somebody else or if she just mentioned, "Yeah, your dad doesn't talk to me." I don't know. And I didn't ask. But I told him, I was like, "Dude, your relationship with her is your business.
Mm-hmm.
It's not my business." And I've allowed that your entire life.
Yep.
Also, she's called you a lot, like over the years. She has your number. She had your number since you've had a phone. Like, and before that, like she stays at your mom's house. And that's the other thing. My ex and my birth mother did not like each other until I got divorced, and now they're like best friends.
Yep.
Nancy stays with my ex-wife every time she's in town. Like they talk to each other all the time. They're friends on every social media app they have. Like they communicate a lot. I have 3 sisters, the oldest of those 3. I'm the oldest of all the kids. Talia and Myra hated each other.
Mhm.
And as soon as I got divorced, they are best friends. Like they've done road trips together, dude.
Weird.
Yeah, it was a few years ago. Like,
I
so
didn't know
like,
they talked. I knew.
oh, dude, they're tight. So and then Talia wonders why I don't have anything to do with her. Not to mention she's just like Nancy and has like 2 or 3 kids from different dads. Lives with Nancy, like doesn't have a pot to piss in. Like I don't associate with people who don't help themselves. Like if you're not willing to do any work for yourself,
Mhm.
I got no time for you. Like now I understand struggle. I grew up poor. 3 of us, my dad, single dad making $11 an hour while paying for a house and keeping his trucks running, like responsibilities.
Yeah.
And
I seen
and a
the
hobby,
struggles.
yeah, like and a hobby. Like he was a skydiver, for 15 years. Like grew up on the drop zone every weekend, but Back then, a ticket, because he owned his own parachute, a ticket was cheap. So it was cheap entertainment all weekend. And we always had fun hanging out as kids. So, like, he did everything he had to do, and it all worked out, but we weren't balling. Like, we were poor. I was probably, every time I think about it, I was definitely the poorest of all of my friends. Now, I liked my life, but like looking back, I'm like, damn, dude, we were poor. And then I continued making decisions that kept me poor for a long time. I mean, I was making really good money for a little while, just none of it was legit. And then went to being poor because I got legit, and then struggle bust my way to success. So like, I'm way more successful than I thought I was ever going to be.
Well,
Like, I am significantly more successful than I thought I was going to be.
we also ran into a problem because I know that we kind of both went through it in different ways, but like, I always wanted like the nice car. So when I did get money, I spent it on that instead of doing something that somebody who has money should be doing. And I know there was other things for you, but like, I remember like Xbox, as soon as it came out, I'd buy the new one. I'd buy whatever video games I could afford. And it's like, I could have just played old ones and been way better off now.
Which is funny because that's what I do now as an adult. Like, I just got a PS5 because my amazing wife bought me one for Christmas. Otherwise, I still wouldn't have one.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that $500 could go to so much other stuff. Like, I own several trucks. Each one of them could use something. Right now, the Suburban needs tires. 35, 12, 50, 16s are hard to find, and they're not cheap. I actually made tire guys yesterday go, what size? And I was like, yeah, dude, 35, 12, 50, 16s. And they were like, yeah, we don't have anything that big. Like, they were both like, what did you just say? And I'm like, yeah, dude, big ass tires. Like, because I don't want to go up to 18s or 20s. I like the big monster sidewalls on my Suburban.
Plus,
like,
I think it gets a better ride anyway, though.
Dude, it's so much more cush. That truck rides like a Cadillac. But anyways, like, now I'm in a position where I'm like, I never thought I would own the trucks I own. Like, I never thought I'd own the house I own. I never thought I'd have this much money where the tools. Like, I mean, it's chaos in here because the holidays always wreck my shop. But, like...
It's May. I'm just kidding.
Dude.
It's
The amount of safes and firearms and everything, like everything, dude. RC cars, like, I can go down the list and I'd be like, okay, like, I love RCs. I could see myself owning one. I've got a lot. I've got another one on the way. So, like, tools. Now I'm like, oh, I want a tool. Dude, I've got tools in that toolbox I've never used, but I bought because I knew someday I might need them. Like, car parts. I got thousands of dollars worth of car parts there. I got brand new headers for the square body up there. They're just sitting there. That's like $800 worth of headers. Like, I'm in such a better position than I ever thought I'd be in, and it baffles me every day. And I thank God for it every day. But I'm now a pretty devout man, so like, I see that stuff and I look for that stuff to like, especially when I'm having a bad day. But when it comes to being like a successful parent and answering those kind of questions, I try to actively give advice to my kids in the moment because I don't want to forget about it. I don't want to wait until I'm gone for them to have to learn a lesson. Like,
it was always the parents that said, oh, we'll talk about that later, and then never did. That kids got in more trouble from what I can remember.
Dude, absolutely. Like, I got in trouble for my own reasons. Like, fortunately, that wasn't one of them. My dad was like, if I would have had my stuff together, my dad is like the most supportive dude I know.
Oh, I know.
Like, was so supportive. I had friends with terrible home lives that lived with us at several different times in my life. Like, he was always looking out for people.
His dad is so supportive that I called him to buy those, or I called him about those, and he called his dad, and his dad ran and got me two of them just because there was a limit.
Out of his way, went out of his way,
just for no reason, just because he knows I'm trying to start selling stuff, and he wants to support me. That's exactly what he told me when he picked it up, and he's like, "If you need more, let me know." Like,
no questions asked, dude. When I asked him,
if it's a positive thing, he's in.
Yeah. When I called him and asked him, because I don't have a Costco membership. He's the only person I know that does. So I was like, hey, this is the situation. Nick just hit me up about these. Would you mind? And he was like, okay. And where he was at a place with crap signal. Yeah. And so it was kind of fuzzy, but he was like, yeah, no problem.
Yep.
And then
I know,
like, no problem, dude.
When he dropped him off, he's like,
yeah, give me money whenever.
Sorry to take it off a little subject a little bit. he was like, I was like, yeah, there's only a couple of them, and I want to make sure I got a couple because they go out quick, and if there were something, I want to make sure I have one or two or three, you know. And he was like, oh, if he's like, is that the only thing out right now? I can run around if you need me to. Like, he was just that, and I was like, no, I was like, there's other sets that are coming out though. And he's like, if you need me to pre-order 'em, me and Rachel will pre-order them. Like, he's all about it. Like,
Oh, yeah,
he's
dude.
just cool.
If you've got a hustle going, if you've got something that matters,
Yep.
and you let him know, he's there.
Yeah.
Like, so
as long as it's a positive thing.
yeah. Like, if you're doing something stupid, he's gonna be like, kick rocks. But
Need to get this cocaine across the border. I heard you got a plane.
yeah. So, like, you know, if he can help out in a positive manner in something that you're really trying to push for, he's all there. And that's the way he always was.
Mhm.
I was just too damn stubborn to listen. Like, he's a very stubborn man too. Like, don't get me wrong, but so was I. Like, but that's something I'm actively every day aware of and trying not to be.
Yeah.
Like, because that's who I was. So, like, going back to, like,
Because you only know what you saw.
yeah, and like, he's a stubborn son of a, but he's one of the most successful people I've ever met. Like, and I don't mean, in a way, I do mean money, because he's very successful, and he's way more successful than he ever looks.
Yes.
Like, that dude, I know what he makes. And I know he owns his properties outright, properties. He owns everything he has.
Yep.
So he owes nobody anything. So I know the position he's in, and I would like to get there someday.
Mhm.
And I could have been there had I listened to him. Now, he doesn't watch this that I know of. So thank God, because he'll never hear me say it. But I'm like, if I could go back in time, I would have listened to my dad every step of the way. And I would probably be twice as successful today.
Mhm.
I probably wouldn't even be in the field I'm in, but I love the field I'm in. Like, I love what I do for a living. I love how I do things. Like, so don't get me wrong, I'd like to make twice as much money doing it, but I already make more doing what I'm doing than I ever thought possible.
So I'm only going off memory here.
Mhm.
So I could be off, and I'm not. Again, I will never put down my dad for the way he raised me.
Yeah, no, dude.
So-
I think he did a really good job.
So I was in a very unique position in my life, and you were there for a lot of it, but I hung out with a lot of different people.
Yeah,
And
we
I
both
got-
did.
And so I saw
You listened. I'll interrupt you just a second. Sorry. You were in a position of mentally,
Yes.
you were paying attention.
Yes.
So this is where I love the saying. It's one of my favorites. Iron sharpens iron. You paid attention to who we were hanging out with.
Yes.
I enjoyed their company because I was at a point where, for me, mentally, emotionally, whatever, I just loved being popular and hanging out with everybody.
Mhm.
We both did, but that's where my shit stopped.
Yeah.
You were paying attention to lessons. Sorry, just continue.
Yeah.
I just
So-
wanted to show the difference in where we were at in life at that
Yeah,
time.
and that's what I meant. He was there for a lot of it, but Matt Manili, when we would used to hang out with his parents, I used to sit in there and talk to his parents.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd hang out with Kevin, and I would talk to Kevin's mom, and then I
Mm-hmm.
would hang out with Megan and Jessica and help their dad do projects, or Megan's dad, not Jessica's dad, but help their dad do a project or something in the house. And like, I would try to learn things from other people. And so and your dad was a big influence on me. I got to learn all of those things, which was very nice, because if I had only followed what my dad said until I was about 23, 24, when my dad actually started looking at his own life and trying to better it, which he didn't. But at that point, my dad was get a job, work hard, move through the company.
Holy shit.
And I think the most my dad ever made in a year was like 58 grand or something, like his whole life. Like, that was the max he ever made. And
That's really good though for back then.
it is,
I know what you're saying. I'm just
but when you look at like what you make more on average now than he was making, like if you compare the money.
gonna make a
it's-
lot more than he was.
So
He had a better pension plan.
He was, which he lost.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, if I would have followed that road, I'm glad that I had the opportunity to see other people's lives and realize, like, John, my brother, has been a big influence on how I did things. I looked up to him way too much as a kid.
Facts.
But I got to see some of that stuff, and they taught me stuff. So I wasn't like, my dad would say stuff, and then I would try to combine things And I think that at times made it even more confusing. But I'm glad that I had people like your dad in my life, because otherwise I might be
An aircraft mechanic
And
making
I-
$58,000 a year.
probably like 63 now. Yeah. It was for the federal government, so
Yeah.
it might have been 63, 64. You get a yearly
Yeah,
raise.
yeah, you might get stuck in like
I'm glad I didn't get stuck. Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Like I've done a lot of different things, like for a career, and any one of them could have been like a forever career.
Mhm.
And I enjoyed each thing I've done for what it was, and I've learned. Like I'm so good at what I do now because, and I wholeheartedly believe this because of my experiences. So, like, I mean, I spent 2 years being the yard dog of a big tire shop, like big truck tires and haul tires and stuff. Like learning how to inventory and learning how to do BOLs and all these other things with trucking and shipping and receiving and just all of it.
Mhm.
And then how to interact with, like, I mean, I've been in construction my whole life. So I started construction at 15, framing houses and building houses from the ground up. So I did 2 years of that, and that taught me a lot. It
Mhm.
taught me how to be a construction worker in the mannerisms department,
Mhm.
like how to. I was never good at receiving, like, I'm trying to say this without cussing too much, like with people talking crap.
Yeah.
I never handled it well, and it came from being bullied for so long. Like
Understandable.
once I realized I wasn't made of glass, which didn't happen until the end of 6th grade. I think we told the story once.
Yes.
So going into junior high, I was like, oh, okay, like I can handle myself to some degree. But at that point, it wasn't necessary because through junior high is when we got popular. And that's when girls started chasing us around. We had friends everywhere. Never fought, dude. In junior high, I
I
never
was
got
too
in one fight.
oblivious to notice, but
Yeah, yeah, but they were still all over us. Like they were still like
Oh, I
locking
know.
arms with you and
they'd
stuff. You
always
just had
be
no
laying
idea.
on me and stuff, and I was just a
Yeah,
freaking
dude.
dumb kid, like la
And
la
I
la.
knew.
I've got friends.
Yeah, and I understood what was happening, and I absorbed all of it.
I know.
I ran with it. But you were also showed so much love and respect to your mom. Like you're like, I mean, you're a mama's boy, true, like through and through.
I take offense to that.
Yeah, and like to this day, like you take care of your mom.
Yeah.
So like back then, you'd promise your mom to not have a girlfriend, and you stuck to it. Like
It was very hard.
I know,
Closer
I
to
was there.
16.
I was there. I know, dude. I remember. You're like, bro, I don't think I can make it. I don't think I'm gonna break this promise. But like you showed, you kept that respect and a promise that you made that you easily could have broken without her ever knowing.
She was
So-
oblivious to anything
Yeah,
anyway, but
but for you, like you still showed the integrity of holding true. I made no such promises to anybody, so I ran like a wild child through those field of flowers. So, but like you, so like I
didn't even
realized,
pluck one.
Yeah, so like you know, going through through junior high, like that's when we just bloomed.
Yeah.
And so I never got in a fight in junior high because I
Didn't
had
need to.
friends. Dude, yeah, didn't need to. It was like the happiest days of my life. But only at school. Home sucked.
Yeah.
So
Well, there was a couple of days maybe, but
yeah, there was like there's some moments in there, but I've tried to block a lot of that other stuff out. But then in high school, that's when things started getting a little bit more. I was still popular. We still ran in a lot of the same crowds. I ran in a few other ones you didn't stick with, but I started having issues with some of the girls you were hanging out with. So I
Alright.
was like, yeah, I'm done with like the snooty. It would just got real snobbish.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm done with that. Like I remember a day I just started dating a new girl and brought her around to the group. And as soon as she walked away, all half them broads did was just run her down.
Mhm.
And I was like, dude, I can't be a part of this anymore. So like I'd still hang out and still go to parties or whatever and still like hang out at lunches or whatever a little bit. But that's when I was like, I can't do the snobbery. Like I'm not dating any of you and you're acting like you want to date me. But then if I ask you to go watch a movie or whatever, you're busy. So it's like, I don't like this in and out
Yep.
nonsense. I'm done.
See,
And then left that, got asked not to come back to that school after 2 years. So then there was a separation anyway.
Yeah.
But like started getting into fights in high school. And so when I started becoming a construction worker, that's when I kind of blossomed as the like back and forth crap talking.
Yeah.
Because up until that point, if you said something, I'm ready to haul off. Like, all right, let's handle this. Like you just said something, you just insulted me, let's go. And that was that ego just drove me. And ego and aggression. So when I started construction, the first advice my dad gave me, it goes, don't dish it out if you can't take it. And I was like, what? And he was like, you talk a lot. Like, I mean, my family, bunch of shit talkers. Like, we all do it. My kids do it. So your kids do it.
Yeah, I know.
Your kid says your mom more than anyone else I've ever met. So, like I was like, okay, like, cool. He's like, I'm telling you, man. He goes, you're on a job site now. Like, you do not talk crap unless you're ready to have it back. And I took that and I kept it there. Like, and this is the first time in my life. And he'd said it before.
Yeah.
But it didn't land. This time it stuck. And in that point, like, I only got into 2 fights on a job site ever. And they were pretty quickly resolved.
Mm-hmm.
One of them, a dude showed up and I just already didn't like him. And we already kind of had beef at school. And then he ran his mouth a little bit. And I was like, I got him my back. And I was like, we're handling this. And he was like, oh, you're for real? I was like, yeah, dude, I'm not joking. And he was like, okay, cool, dude. Like, we're good. I was like, all right. So he squashed it pretty quick because he realized, he's like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I've heard about you. Like, at that point, my name was going around in circles. People started learning. They're like, oh yeah, no, he's not one to, like, he'll get real fast. So the next time was like a misunderstanding and I was ready to throw down. And the dude was like, whoa, why are we fighting? Like, he was so confused.
That would have been me.
Yeah. He was like, wait, why? And he pulled a box cutter because he got scared. And he was smaller than me. And it's not like I was bullying him, but something happened. I thought what had happened came from him. So I was like, let's go. And like rushed him out back behind the house. And I was like, and he was like, and he said, it's the first time I've ever seen panic in someone else's eyes because I was there.
Yeah.
And he pulled his box cutter. He's like, started getting all amped. And then he was like, why are we about to fight? Why are we fighting? Like, he was like so petrified and just so caged. He was like, why are we fighting? And I'm like, well, because of this. He's like, that wasn't me. And I was like, what? And he was like, I didn't do that, man. And he's like twitching, but he's holding his box cutter, right? And he's just like trying to stay nimble so he can slash at me because he was so much smaller. And I was like,
That's funny.
hold on. That was, and then I was like, my bad. I apologize. I thought it was you. And he was like, oh. I was like, we cool, dude. Like, you ain't got to cut me. Like, are we good? And like, and I put, and I shook his hand. He was like, all right. He was like, all right. And I was like, and then we never had problems. Like, after that, we were good. But like, that taught me another lesson. Like, don't just jump into ready to swing on someone because you might have this wrong. So those things started to kind of curve me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like the beginning of growth as a person. And I was still like in the middle of it, like in the middle of all the nonsense I was into.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, like if I just got that wrong, how many other times have I gotten it wrong? And like, I started reflecting on all that. So like, tried to calm down, and then just over time. And I think once I started building a career doing what I'm doing, I watched so many dudes that are vets just like let their ego run their day into the ground.
Oh yeah.
Like, just convinced that they know what's wrong, convinced that they got it fixed, and then being wrong and being unwilling to admit that they were wrong. And I never want to be that guy. So if I don't know, and I tell my boss this all the time, dude, I don't know, I'll go give it a shot. Like, hey, I got this problem. Can you go handle it? I'm like, I'll try. I make no promises. And he'd be like, okay. Like, and that's how I've learned most of what I know, is the hard way. But I let that ego kind of die.
Yep.
Like the ego of self, I'm slowly letting that die. There's times where it pops up, but because I'm so honed in, like I got my little beacons going, waiting for it to pop up. When it does, I try to rein that thing in.
Yeah.
And try to keep the ego from being big. Like, I know you remember, like, my ego was big as life.
Oh, yeah.
My ego was way bigger than I was.
So if you, in one sentence, what do you think my biggest problem with ego was? Because I know what I think it was, but I could be wrong.
Okay. So if I understand what you're
different.
asking, my answer would be you chased shiny shit.
I did.
Like, you wanted the nicest car, the nicest jewelry, the nicest clothes. Like, if there was something out there and there was a nicest version, you wanted that version.
And
like,
that was probably my biggest problem. And
but I blame your brother.
And that's a good way to put it. I wasn't thinking that way, but yeah, I literally wanted the best of everything with nothing to offer. Now, there's one part of my ego that I do like, though. When I actually care about something, if
If it matters,
if it matters. Like I remember like doing environmental management, decorative concrete. And I started at a job. They were like, hey, you're gonna be doing carpet and tile cleaning. I get there the first day, and he's like,
I used to do that
so do you wanna do decorative concrete? And I was like, sure. Like, you know, he's like, comes with $1 raise. I was like, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, like,
in.
but I remember this is like just an example of it. A guy trained me for a couple months. His name was Bruce. Hardcore alcoholic. Looked like he looked rough, and I don't like always comparing people to this, but
You rode hard.
he looked like he had been strung out for a long time and then was recovering. He didn't look like it all the time, but he looked like that for the most part.
Didn't treat himself well.
He ended up leaving the company for reasons I don't know, if he was fired, quit, whatever. But then I remember he's like, I mean, it's pretty much closed. You'll go to tile and grout cleaning, blah, blah, because I don't know if you can do it, like, by yourself. And that's the part of my ego that I like, because I was like, I can do it. Like, I did 90% of the work anyways, because that dude would go over in the corner and sleep. Like, absolutely not. And I got pissed, and I was like, I can do it. You know, like when somebody tells me I can't do something, that one, I either care about the opinion of the person that's doing it and truly care about that subject too.
Yeah.
Both. Or I know I can do it, but you don't know that I can, and you tell me I can't. I like to prove people wrong if it benefits me, not if it doesn't, because then I don't care.
I was going to say that's a lot like John, but he'll do it if it doesn't benefit him.
Yeah.
He'll do it to his own detriment.
He did that a lot, yeah.
Yeah. So, like,
I'm going to pause you, though. I have to use the restroom real quick. So
All right,
you
bro.
can just
Well, we can-
banter for a second.
we can end this one, take a little break, and then we can come back
Okay.
and pop in.
That works.
Because that's, I mean, that's 51 minutes. Most people don't want to watch any longer than that.
Nobody wants
If
to
you've made it this far, like it, comment it, like, subscribe.
share it, subscribe, send us
Yeah.
emails.
I meant to do that at the beginning, dude, and I can always forget. So if you made it this far, please do something. If you've made it this far, do leave a comment?
Yeah.
Like,
Leave a comment.
let me know
thumbs
what you
up,
think.
thumbs down even. We got to know what to improve on.
Yeah, like, let us know. So we'll be back after these messages. So from Tucson, Arizona, I'm Randy.
I'm Nick.
Bye.
Bye.